You hear that sound? It is the sound of the police. There appears to be an investigation by the feds into Mar-a-Lago, the home of Donald Trump, the twice impeached president and very much disgraced president. We're going to go to this news right now with Representative Khanna. Ro, are you here, and have you heard this news that the former president, his residence, is now being investigated by the feds?
I have. It's obviously a very serious matter. I know President Trump issued a very lengthy defensive statement. But look, the FBI doesn't just go in unless a judge signs off on a search warrant. That means they have some probable evidence about possible wrongdoing. And it's something that the whole country needs to pay attention to, and shows that Attorney General Garland is setting this up step by step.
So this is the first question that occurs to me, and I think a lot of people watching right now, is how major is this as far as other members of sort of the Trump cabal? It's been one thing to talk about the former president. It's been one thing to bring in the Cohens and people associated with him. But for the FBI to actually be knocking down doors in his home, is this a time that Americans can believe that perhaps the orange jumpsuit is forthcoming? Because this doesn't seem to be common. What would be your take on that?
Well, I don't want to politicize it, because I think Attorney General Garland and the Justice Department have done a very good job by following the facts. And it's not for me or members of Congress to say what should happen. It should be where the facts lead them. And they have been very methodical. They have not been quick to do anything, but it shows that they are concerned that serious crimes were committed, and they're following the evidence. And now let's see what they end up doing. But I do think that this gives me confidence that the Justice Department is really pursuing this thoroughly, objectively, and in a non-political way.
Speaking of being non-political, I have to admit, in many respects, my first thought when I heard this news is I wanted to congratulate the bipartisan January 6th committee. Do you believe that the efforts made by your colleagues on the January 6th committee, including Republicans and Democrats, and the enthusiasm and the hunger and the satisfaction that Americans have gotten from watching those hearings, do you think that had an influence on the aggressiveness with which we're seeing right now from the Department of Justice against the former president?
I think that had an impact on the country in understanding what happened, that it wasn't just about the riots and insurrection on the Capitol, that there was a plan to basically try to overturn the election, to have someone installed as president who didn't win either the popular vote or the Electoral College. And they did a masterful job of explaining that to the American public. I believe that the Justice Department has been following the law and the facts from day one, and they have been doing it in the way that builds trust. And I don't think it's helpful for members of Congress to politicize it, because ultimately what we want is an independent Justice Department that is not acting in a political motive. That's why President Biden appointed Attorney General Garland. Many people are saying, oh, he's too slow or he's not doing anything. I think what he has shown is integrity, and that's why whatever he does, the Justice Department is going to have the confidence of the American public.
So, Representative Khanna, I always push back slightly on this, because it is a political investigation, and that's not inherently bad. And I say this because it was an attempt at a political insurrection, right? Like, you can't say it's non-political when the former president was trying to use politics to sort of overrule the sort of will of the people. But my question for you also is, now that you've seen this, do you think this will have an impact on impending votes in Congress? Do you think that this will make your Republican colleagues more likely to go along with what seem to be policy initiatives by the Biden administration the American public wants? Do you think this will make them more likely to separate themselves from President Trump? Or do you think that they'll basically double down and say, well, the FBI is after him, so now it's our opportunity. We have to sort of circle the wagons as we have before. What do you think the impact of this FBI raid will have on your body working forward?
Well, for almost 6 years, every time I thought that the Republicans would finally speak up against Donald Trump, they have unfortunately let me down. So I don't know whether this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But if anything, it should hopefully get enough Republicans in the Senate and a few in the House to vote for the electoral count Reform Act, which will make sure that whoever wins the popular vote in states in 2024 actually gets the slate's delegates, because otherwise you're going to have a situation where someone can try to steal the election again. And hopefully, at the very least, the January 6th Commission and all of these findings by the Justice Department will lead to bipartisan support for upholding the basic principles of our democracy. That, I'm optimistic, can pass the Senate and the House.